Hello and welcome back. Next, in this video, we want to add our error handlers. Okay, what we are going to do is just to create some interfaces and then export some error classes. Okay, for example, we are going to have the bad request error, which is I think a 401 or so, a not found error. We are going to also export not authorized error, maybe file too large error, server error. Okay, so before we can do that, we need to install http-status-codes. Okay, so this library http status codes. Okay, so we are going to import this, or first we install and then we use it. So open your terminal, then npm install http status codes. Okay, in the source folder, I'll create a file called error-handler.ts. Dash, not dot handler. Dash handler. Okay. Now the first thing is for us to import the status codes. Now you have different properties you can import, but what we need is the status codes. Okay. So import status codes from http-status-codes. Okay, now what we want to do is, the first thing is we need to create an error response interface. Okay, and it will have properties like message, the status code, the status, the serialized errors function. Okay, so I'll create a new interface. I'll call this error response. Usually in an error response, you have the message itself, the status code, the status. Okay, so it will contain message of type string, status code if it's 404 or 500 or whatever. This will be a number. Then it will contain a status as well, which will be of type string. Now I want to add a property. Okay, this property is going to be a property we're going to add ourselves. I'll call this coming from, and it's going to be a string. Now the reason I'm adding this property is so that if we have an error in a service, okay, and the error object is sent to our login system, that is Elasticsearch, and then we view it on Kibana. With this coming from, we're going to know exactly which method or which function the error is coming from. Take for example, if we have an error with our sign up method, with this method, we have a name like maybe sign up create method. So in the error object, we are going to, once we see this coming from, you can call this with any name you want. So once we see this message, we know that, okay, the error is coming exactly from our sign up create method. Okay, so that is why we are adding this coming from property. And then I'll add another property called serialize errors. Okay, it's going to be a method of type error. Now I've not created this error object, so let me create this. So export interface. This is just an error object, and yeah, we can add all of this as well right here. Okay, now the next thing is we need to create an abstract class. Okay, so we create an abstract class that we extend the error object, the normal JavaScript error object. So we extend that, we create an abstract class, and then every other classes that will be created will be extended from this abstract class. Okay, so we say export abstract class custom error. Now abstract classes, they usually don't have their own implementations. Okay, but every other class that extends from the abstract class will have the required implementations. Okay, and then it extends from the error object. Now this error object right here is, you can see error constructor is, I think it's coming from either JavaScript or from Express. one of those. But our own abstract class is called custom error. Okay, and we are going to pass the abstract property called status code, which will be of type number. Okay, we are going to have the abstract property called status, which is going to be of type string. And then we can add our coming from, which is going to be of type string as well. Okay, and here we need a constructor. Okay, and in the constructor we pass a message of type string, and then coming from of type string. So what this means is every other class that we extend from this custom error will call the super constructor, that is the constructor of this abstract class, which is this, and then it will we will need to pass a message and a coming from properties. Okay, and then message we call super. This will be message. We are passing super because it extends from error. Okay, so this super here is calling the constructor of this error object, and then when we create another class that extends this custom error, we are going to call super, and that super will implement this constructor from the custom error. So this is like constructor and then constructor. Okay, constructor. Okay, this constructor from the error object. So this constructor is the constructor for this, why this constructor is for this. Okay, right here we call super, and then let's set this property. So this dots coming from will be equal to this. Okay, and then one last thing we need to do is define this serialized error or serialized errors. Okay, it will just be a method that returns I error. Return, this will be message, this dot message. In fact, all of these properties here. Okay, and then so status code, status, and then coming from. Okay, so now this is our custom error abstract class. Now to use this is very simple. Let's create our first error object. We want to create a bad request error. So whenever we call this class, it's going to return the bad request error. To do that, export class bad requests error, and this will extend custom error. Because it's extending custom error, we need to define the abstract properties. Okay, so the first abstract property is status code, you can see, and the status code will be equal to, we are going to get it from here. So this is going to be status code dot bad request, and then the status is going to be of type error, and then we need to define a constructor for it. Okay, so I'll say constructor, it will take a message of type string and coming from of type string. Okay, in order for it to implement this, call this constructor, we need to call super, and super takes in what? A message and a coming from. This is supposed to be equal to. Okay, now in order for us to use this, we will just call something like this, new bad request error, and then we pass our message and the coming from message. This is how we are going to define it. Okay, so anywhere we create an instance of this bad request error, is going to return this 400. Okay, it's going to return a 400 error message. So I'll pause the video, add the others, and then we go through it. Okay, so here I added the not found error. Not found is the same with the bad request error. The only difference is the name, okay, and then the status code. Okay, for not found error, it's 404, so status code dot not found. Then not authorized error is 401, okay, and then we have file too long, okay, so 413, and then we have a server error, the 503. You can add 500 if you want. And then I added this object, export interface error number exception, okay, with error number, code, path, syscall, and stack. Okay, so you can go ahead and add different types of error classes that you want, and also probably you can add this error exception right here. Now then, next thing to do is to export it here. Okay, so export from error handler. Okay, so go ahead and add all of these exports right here. Every export we have here, add them to this index.ts. Okay, so I've exported all of the interfaces from our error handler. So if we need the bad request error, we just import bad request error and then we pass the properties.